What's happening, everybody? I'm Steve, and welcome back to Junkdrummer TV, where I give my initial reactions, my hot takes, and my analysis on the drummers of today and yesterday and maybe tomorrow. If I stick around that long, I'm a professional drum teacher and a gigging musician, and I have been for 20 plus years. We've been doing a lot of metal and rock drummers around here lately, and I never want to get bogged down into one specific genre because I just don't listen to music like that. I truly listen to everything from bluegrass to heavy metal to straight rock, funk music, jazz music, and what we're going to get into today, a little pop music. We're going to be watching E-Panda Hernandez play with his, I think it's his little brother, Bruno Mars. I love Bruno Mars. I think he's great. I'm not a big fan, obviously, of modern pop music, the stuff you hear on the radio if you're actually listening to a radio, but I think compared to what's popular today, Bruno Mars really stands out. I think that he's kind of like a Prince character. Now, easy comment section, I am not saying that he is as great as the purple one, but I think that he's a decent modern day version of Prince in the sense that he plays all the instruments and he really has a lot of different styles in his music, which is something that I always love. So, for E-Panda Hernandez, I don't really know anything about him personally other than when I've seen him play with Bruno Mars, so there's really no reason to get into a big preamble like I do with the other drummers that I know about, so let's just get right into it. But before we do that, please give me a like, comment, and share. Give me a double tap on the subscription and the notification bell. Please check out my Patreon. Also, have a PayPal donation link if you're interested in that. Link in the descriptions. Let's watch Bruno Mars and Hernandez, otherwise known as E-Panda, play Locked Out of Heaven. When this first comes around the second time, we're going to really analyze and break that down. I always thought this song sounds like The Police. It's got like a new wave feel about it. Of course, The Police were a new wave band. This has that kind of on top of the beat, Stuart Copeland feel. So he's playing, a real funky but disjointed groove at the beginning there, and when he lays down this just regular 1, 2, 3, 4 really solidifies the feel. Tell you what, man, if my brother ever got famous, he better make me his drummer. Okay, so right there, the chorus, that's what I call a double halftime, because he's got the snare drum is on the 4, he's going 1 and 2 and 4 and a 1 and 2 and 4, and then and a 1 at the end of it. This song has a lot of different groove feels all the way through it, and this guy makes everything feel great. So let's talk about that verse groove right there. I've taught this song a few times. This is a 4-measure phrase, and it's kind of it's a little bit of advanced baseball to think that long. Most of the time we play grooves that are 1-measure or 2-measure phrases, especially in this style of music, but this is a much longer version of a groove. And he's not playing the 1 for the first 3 measures. He doesn't play the 1 again until the 4th measure. The groove of this song is, imagine my right hand's on a hi-hat right here, is and 2 and 4 and da da and 2 and 4 and 2 and 4 and 2 and 4 1 2 I counted it wrong there at the end. But that when we've talked about that a lot on the channel before, when you take the one away, you make the listener kind of have this floating feel, because that one, you know, that one is the cornerstone, and that cornerstone's gone on the first three measures. And even when he plays the one on that fourth measure, it still doesn't like solidify it. That groove really lays down that real heavy funk when he goes from that, you know, disjointed groove, and that those bass drum parts go right with what the bass player's playing. But once he goes into, you know, kind of gets called the pre-chorus, you know, that just compositionally, that groove really solidifies really, really hard right there. It's a cool effect. Yes, yes, yes. That's sweet. That is some of that gospelchops.com shit. Why do other channels not say gospel chops? I've watched a few different videos of like drum teachers and drum reactors or whatever talk about G chops. Why do they? It's gospel chops, man. We all know what you're talking about. That is, I think he's playing a sextuplet right there. We're going to bring that back. And he's playing a sextuplet that's broke up between the hands and the feet. You can think of that, if you're a metal guy, you can think of that as a, you know, a metal concept too in your drum fills. But this, the way this is phrased and the way that it feels is very, very gospel-y.com. Let's go back and check that out. I love that drum fill. That might be something that a man steals. Coming up right here. Yes. And, you know, he's playing very producer type drums here. You know, he's playing exactly the song, but that was a little spot right there where E-Panda could, you know, whip those chops out. And that's a cool thing. He has the discipline to play exactly the song, you know, just based on that drum fill, you can tell what kind of, you know, chops this guy has. But he found one spot that you can kind of, you know, show off a little bit, get those show off muscles going on. And that's great. Yeah, you just don't overdo it. That bass player's bad. That's a bad man. We've talked about it before. You know, if you're playing with a good bass player, it makes it real easy to play good drums. Yeah, right there, you know, playing that really choppy, broken up groove in the verse. When he lays down that 2 and 4, when it goes back to just 1, 2, 3, 4, man, that hits really hard. Here's another thing that he did. I'm going to go back, maybe you didn't notice. That pre-chorus, I guess it's kind of post-verse, really, has kind of like two sections in it. Now the drummer is just playing 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4 through it. But once the second section of that post-verse, I guess, notice that he opens the hi-hat and gives it another texture. Let me go back just a little bit. You'll go, you know, he's going from, you know, tight hi-hat sound and then loosens up that hi-hat. And that sets up where he lays down just that 4 on the floor on the bass drum. Check it out. Tight hi-hat. This is very Dave Grohl. Open it up right there. Giving different textures behind the music. That's the interesting small little details. Man, Bruno Mars is bad. He's a bad boy, man. Dude can sing his ass off. That's not tuned. Yeah, I love this part. I think the guy who played this on the record is the guy that played for the Dap Kings. Don't quote me on that. Going to the ride cymbal. I think they might be playing with some tracks because I hear tambourine and I don't see anyone playing tambourine. If you watch the Super Bowl a couple years ago when Bruno Mars played, he started the whole thing out on a flying drum set and killed it. He's a badass drummer too. I think they come from a real musical family. Okay, so where that verse is what I call a double halftime. I don't think anyone else calls it that. That right there is a classic or a halftime. Make sure I said all that. The chorus is a double halftime, and this is a classic halftime. Usually when someone says classic, halftime, the snare drum's on the 3. This song has about 4 or 5 very distinct different grooves, and he navigates those wonderfully with great feel. It's very easy for lesser drummers when you go from, regular time 2 and 4, no one calls it that either, to like a halftime, to want to slow down. That's one of those things when you're out watching, your local yokel band, and the drummer goes from regular time to halftime and he slows down, or if he or she goes from regular time to double time and they speed up. That's a big one. That's a big indication that you're watching kind of a lesser drummer. This guy's great and he's not doing any of that. And again, it's not laid back funk, like he's not back here on the quarter note. He's playing on top of it. And anytime you do that, you're gonna sound and feel like Stuart Copeland. I've always thought that the drums in this sounded like Stuart Copeland. So, man, pop music, man. When I called the 21 Pilots a pop band, there were so many commenters that was just completely offended by that. And I don't think pop music is a dirty word. Man, I love Pharrell Williams. I love hip-hop, and that's all pop music. Pop music can be great. Remember, early Beatles was a pop band. And the big thing we can take away from here is, like, man, if your brother is famous, make sure you got your chops together, because you might become like a famous drummer because of it. E-Panda, he seems like he might have probably played in church back in the day. If you know anything about Bruno Mars' whole catalog, you know that he goes from, everything from like piano ballads to like stuff that sounds like New Jack Swing, that Mark Ronson song, what is that one? Uptown Funk, that's kind of sounds like Tower of Power, so or more like Blood, Sweat and Tears, or Earth, Wind and Fire. So when you play behind a pop artist like Bruno Mars, you got to have all of those styles at your disposal. And that really goes to, when you're practicing, don't get bogged down into becoming, I'm a this drummer or I'm a that drummer. With the internet, those specialized drummers just don't exist anymore. Like, almost any New York jazz guy, almost all of them play in some sort of hip-hop group. That's a big thing now in New York City, is like, jazz influenced hip-hop. You can't just be a specialist anymore. You've got to be able to play any style, and for a drum chair like Bruno Mars, that's a necessity. So, if y'all enjoyed all that, please, again, give me a like, comment, and share. Give me a double tap on the subscription and the notification bell. Patreon, PayPal, and Brother Ben, if you ever get famous, make sure you make me a drummer, because I'll be practicing until it's easy.